You know that feeling when you realize your family has been living their best life without you? Yeah, that's where I was last night at 11:47 p.m., scrolling through Instagram like a masochist. Andrea's feed was full of golden hour photos from the Hamptons, Dylan's 28th birthday party at his family's summer estate. I'm talking champagne towers, designer dresses, a three-tier cake that probably cost more than my mortgage payment. Mom and Dad were in every other photo, laughing with people whose names I don't even recognize. They were wearing clothes I'd never seen before, expensive clothes that honestly didn't quite fit their personalities. Dad in a polo shirt with the collar popped like some country club regular. Mom in this linen dress with statement jewelry that looked like she'd borrowed it from someone. They looked happy, I guess. But mostly, they looked like strangers. I scrolled through 37 photos, yes, I counted, before I found what I was looking for. Confirmation that this wasn't just some misunderstanding, that Jason and I weren't accidentally overlooked. We weren't invited. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Andrea, sent to me 3 hours into the party like a complete afterthought. Andrea, sorry we couldn't include everyone. Dylan's parents kept it small, immediate family only. You understand. I literally laughed out loud at that. Immediate family only? I counted at least 40 people in those photos. Dylan's college roommate was there, his cousin's girlfriend, people who aren't family at all. But not us. Not her actual sister and brother-in-law. Jason was already asleep by then, his work alarm set for 5:30 a.m., like always. The man works hard, 6 days a week at the dealership downtown, coming home with grease under his fingernails and this quiet pride in his work that I've always loved about him. He used to come home to family dinners at my parents' house, Sunday barbecues where Dad would ask him about his day and actually listen to the answer, where Mom would send him home with enough leftovers to feed us for 3 days. That all stopped about 6 months ago, right around the time Andrea married Dylan Price. And listen, I need you to understand who Dylan is, because this is where everything started falling apart. Dylan's father owns Price Hardware Empire. We're talking 17 locations across the state, old money, vacation homes, the whole 9 yards, the kind of wealth that changes people. And oh boy, did it change my family. Overnight. It was like someone literally flipped a switch. The parents who raised me to value character over cash, who taught me that what matters is who you are, not what you have, they just became these completely different people I barely recognized. The sister who used to call me her best friend started screening my calls. Sunday dinners just stopped happening. Birthday celebrations became optional. Well, unless Dylan was involved. Then suddenly everyone's calendar was wide open. They've been steering clear of Jason and me for months now. Slowly, carefully, like we're some old habit they're trying to break. And I think I finally understand why. We remind them of who they used to be. People who couldn't afford champagne towers and Hamptons estates. People like us, regular people. I turned off my phone and tried to sleep, but all I could think about was how my family chose a birthday party. A birthday party for someone they'd known less than a year, over me. And you know what the worst part was? They didn't even pretend to be sorry about it. Okay, so let me tell you about my family before all this happened. Before Dylan. Because I need you to understand, we weren't always like this. We were normal, Beautifully, wonderfully normal. My dad, Gary, worked construction his whole life. My mom, Delia, was a secretary at Jefferson Elementary. We had backyard barbecues and potluck dinners, and these chaotic board game nights where Dad would accuse everyone of cheating at Monopoly. When I married Jason 5 years ago, Jason, who's a mechanic at the downtown dealership, my parents threw us a wedding in their backyard. And listen, it wasn't fancy. We had 200 people sitting in mismatched chairs we borrowed from the church. The reception was potluck style. Everyone brought a dish. The cake came from the grocery store bakery. But it was perfect. It was us. Jason's boss, Mr. Hendricks, came to our wedding. He and Jason's dad were best friends since they were kids. Both started out as mechanics together. Hendricks eventually started his own dealership and built it from the ground up. That's how he became CEO. He created the whole business himself. But he never forgot where he came from. He still treats Jason like family, not just an employee. He's one of those rare people who actually lives his values. Dad gave this toast that night that made everyone cry. He said, "Marie found a man who works hard and loves harder. We couldn't be prouder." Mom hugged Jason so tight and told him he was the son she'd always wanted. And Andrea? Andrea was my maid of honor. She stood up there and promised that when she got married, she wanted exactly this: real love, real family, nothing fancy. I believed her. We all did. For 3 years after that, life was just good. Sunday dinners at my parents' house, holidays together. Andrea dated a few guys, a teacher, an accountant, some grad students studying environmental science. Nice guys, normal guys. Then last October, everything changed. Andrea met Dylan at some charity function. 3 months later, they were engaged. 3 months after that, married. The wedding was something else entirely. They had it at the Grandview Estate. You know, that historic mansion with the manicured gardens, the one that costs more to rent for a day than most people make in 6 months. Yeah, that one. Andrea wore a custom Vera Wang dress. Custom. With real diamonds sewn into the bodice. The guest list was 300 people, and I'd never met half of them. But here's what really got me. My parents transformed for that wedding. And I mean completely transformed. Dad bought a new BMW. Mom got a Lexus. Both on credit, I'm sure, but suddenly they were driving luxury cars. They joined the country club, Dylan's parents' country club, the one with the initiation fee that costs more than a year of college tuition. They started speaking differently, too. Carefully, like they were trying on accents that didn't quite fit, using words like networking and connections and opportunities. At Andrea's wedding, Jason and I were seated at table 12. Table 12. Do you know where table 12 is? It's not the family table, I can tell you that much. The family table was up front where my parents sat with the Prices, looking like they'd always belonged in that world. No one introduced us to anyone important. And when Dad did mention Jason to one of Dylan's relatives, you know what he said? He said he works on cars. Just like that, with this apologetic little shrug like he was embarrassed. Not, he's a master mechanic. Not, he's incredibly skilled at what he does, just works on cars, like Jason washes cars for minimum wage or something. I watched my parents that whole night, watched them fawn all over Dylan's family, watched them barely acknowledge Jason and me unless they absolutely had to. Mom didn't come over once to ask if I needed anything. Dad didn't check if we were having a good time. It was like we weren't even there. When we left early, because Jason literally couldn't take another minute of being invisible, my parents didn't try to stop us. They actually looked relieved, like we'd done them this huge favor by removing ourselves, by not being this constant reminder of who they used to be. That's when I knew. Money hadn't just changed my family. It had completely replaced them with these new people I didn't even recognize. So after the wedding, things got worse. Way worse. The invitations just stopped coming. And I'm not talking about big events. I'm talking about everything. Andrea's bridal shower? Found out about it on Instagram, scrolling through photos of mimosas and designer gift bags and all her new rich friends laughing together. There I was, her sister, finding out she'd had a whole party I wasn't invited to. Mom's birthday dinner? I actually called to ask what the plans were, and she said, I kid you not, "Oh, we're keeping it small this year. Just us. Just them. The new them. The ones who belonged." And then Dylan's birthday party, the Hamptons thing I told you about. When I asked Andrea about it, her excuse was so thin I could see right through it. His parents wanted immediate family only. I counted 40 people in those photos. 40. But sure, immediate family only. Jason didn't even pretend to be disappointed anymore. He just looked at me and said, "Even if they'd invited us, I wouldn't go. I'm not going to stand around while your family pretends they don't know us so they don't ruin their new image." And I wanted to defend them. I wanted to say he was being too harsh. But I couldn't, because he was absolutely right. "They're pompous wannabes," he said. "Your dad bought a BMW on credit he can't afford. Your mom joined a country club and pretends to play tennis. They're drowning in debt trying to look rich, and they've cut us out because we remind them of what they actually are." I didn't correct him. What could I say? It was all true. My parents had systematically cut us out of their lives. Phone calls went unreturned. Text messages got one-word responses if I was lucky. Plans were always maybe next time, and next time never, ever came. But it wasn't just us they were cutting out. My Aunt Linda called me one day, and her voice was so tight with hurt, it broke my heart. "Your mother walked right past me at the grocery store yesterday," she said, looked me dead in the eye, and then turned down another aisle, like she didn't even know me. Aunt Linda, who'd been in Mom's life for 30 years, who'd raised her kids alongside us, celebrated every holiday together, helped each other through every hard time. None of that mattered anymore. Then Andrea's best friend since high school, Sonia, showed up at my house in tears. "She blocked me," Sonia said. "On everything. Instagram, Facebook, her phone number. I tried to ask her why, and she told me she was simplifying her social circle." Sonia laughed, but it was bitter. 15 years of friendship, Marie, gone. Because I'm not rich enough for her new life. All my parents' old friends, the ones they'd spent decades with, the ones who'd helped them move, who'd watched us grow up, who'd celebrated every single milestone, they were all being erased, systematically deleted from my parents' lives, and replaced with what? People who summered in the Hamptons and wintered in Aspen, people who'd never seen Dad cry at sappy commercials, people who didn't know that Mom once drove 4 hours in the middle of the night to help a friend whose car broke down, people who only knew these expensive, shallow versions of my parents, the versions that didn't include Jason and me. We'd become ghosts in our own family, present in old photos but completely absent from new ones, like we were this chapter they were desperately trying to forget. And honestly, they weren't even subtle about it. They wanted us gone. They'd made that crystal clear. 6 weeks of complete silence passed. Then one day, my phone rang, Dad's name on the screen. I stared at it for 3 rings before I answered, my heart doing this stupid hopeful thing where I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd come to their senses. "Marie, I need Jason. No hello, no how are you, honey, no, we've missed you." Just a demand. "What's wrong?" I asked. "My car won't start. Can Jason come take a look?" Of course, that's why he was calling. They needed something. "And your mother wants to see you," Dad added, like a complete afterthought. Part of me wanted to say no, to hang up and protect myself. But another part, this pathetic, hopeful part, thought maybe this was it. Maybe they'd realized what they'd done. Maybe this was an olive branch, an apology disguised as a favor. "We'll be there in 20 minutes, I said. Jason did not want to go. "This is a mistake, Marie. This is absolutely a mistake." But he grabbed his tools anyway, because that's who Jason is. Someone who helps people even when they don't deserve it, even when they've treated him like garbage. We pulled up to my parents' house, and Andrea's Range Rover was in the driveway. So all 3 of them were there, waiting. We walked in, and they were all in the living room. Mom on this new designer couch I'd never seen before. Dad standing by the window. Andrea scrolling through her phone like we were interrupting something important. The whole room smelled like these expensive candles, and it felt like walking into a staged house. Everything was different from the home I grew up in. New furniture, new art on the walls, new everything. Nobody stood up when we walked in. Nobody smiled. Nobody said, "It's good to see you." "Jason, the car's in the garage," Dad said. Not, "Thanks for coming." Not, "Good to see you, son." Just instructions. Jason headed to the garage without a word. Then Mom looked at me with this expectant expression. "Marie, I need you to make your lemon pie." I just blinked at her. "What?" "My lemon pie. You know the recipe. I need it by tomorrow." She turned to Andrea. "Your sister makes the best lemon pie. My recipe, but she has the touch for it." Andrea didn't even look up from her phone. "I've been craving it. Mom's bringing it to me tomorrow, and I want to take some to Vivian and Richard. They're having us for dinner." I stood there staring at them. At my mother, who hadn't called me in weeks. At my sister, who'd systematically erased me from her life. At my father, who'd just sent my husband to the garage like hired help. "You called us here to make a pie and fix a car?" Mom looked genuinely confused by my tone. "Well, yes, Jason's good with cars, and you make the pie better than I do." "No, please. No, would you mind? No, we've missed you." No acknowledgement whatsoever that they'd iced us out for months and were now demanding favors like we were the help they'd called in. I tried one more time. "How's life been? We haven't talked in a while." Mom waved her hand dismissively like I was being dramatic. "Busy. You know how it is." "I really don't." Andrea finally looked up from her phone, annoyed. Can you make the pie or not? I told Vivian about it and she's expecting it. And that's when it hit me. Really hit me. They weren't here to apologize. They weren't here to rebuild any bridges. They weren't even slightly sorry. They'd called us here for free labor. That's it. That's all we were worth to them. I walked to the garage where Jason was already under the hood of Dad's BMW. We're leaving. He straightened up immediately, reading everything on my face. Yeah? Yeah? We walked back inside together. Jason's hands were already dirty from the engine, but he didn't even care. Mom stood up. Is the car fixed? No, Jason said simply, but you just got here. Call a mechanic, he said, his voice flat. A real one you'll actually pay. I looked at my parents, these people I didn't even recognize anymore. We're going home. Marie, don't be dramatic, Mom said, her voice getting sharp. I just need a simple pie, then bake it yourself. After everything we've done for you, Dad started. And there it was, the card I knew they'd eventually play. Everything you've done for me? My voice came out so calm it surprised even me. You mean raising me? That thing parents are supposed to do? That's not a debt, Dad. That's basic human decency. We're family, Mom tried. Family helps each other. Family talks to each other. Family invites each other to birthday parties. Family doesn't call you after months of complete silence just to get free labor. I picked up my purse. Call us when you stop pretending to be rich. Excuse me? Andrea's head snapped up from her phone. You heard me. All three of you. You've forgotten where you came from. You turned your backs on Jason and me. You turned your backs on your friends, on your actual family. You've spent months playing dress-up in a world you don't belong to, and honestly, it's painfully obvious to everyone but you. How dare you? Mom's face was turning red. I hope your new friends aren't laughing behind your backs, I continued. Because it's so obvious you're trying too hard, the leased cars you can't afford, the country club membership that's probably drowning you in debt, the designer clothes that don't quite fit right. You're not fooling anyone. Get out, Dad said quietly. Gladly. I looked at Andrea. And Andrea, bake your own lemon pie. This poor woman isn't bending over backwards for you anymore. Jason was already at the door waiting for me. Behind us, I heard Mom's voice, shrill and offended. Ungrateful, after everything we sacrificed. I didn't turn around. I just kept walking. Jason opened the truck door for me, and we drove away from my childhood home in complete silence. 2 blocks away, he reached over and took my hand. I'm proud of you, he said quietly. I just burned the last bridge. No. He squeezed my hand. They burned it months ago. You just finally stopped pretending it was still standing. And you know what? He was absolutely right. My family was gone. They'd been gone since the day Andrea brought Dylan home and showed them a life they thought was better than the one they had. Better than the one that included me. I cried the whole way home, but when we pulled into our driveway, our modest, completely paid-for, honest home, I felt something I didn't expect. Relief. I was done pretending too. So 6 years passed. Can you believe that? 6 whole years. And honestly, they were good years. Jason got promoted to head mechanic at the dealership. We paid off our mortgage early. I started this freelance graphic design business from home that actually took off. And 3 years ago, we had Owen. God, Owen. He's got Jason's eyes and my stubborn streak. The kid loves trucks and dinosaurs and helping his daddy in the garage. He's never met his grandparents. I don't even know if my parents know he exists, to be honest. When I was pregnant, I thought about calling them. Thought maybe a grandchild would be the thing that brought them back, you know? Like maybe they'd realize what they were missing. But then I'd remember the lemon pie incident. The way they'd looked at us like we were the help. All those months of them systematically erasing us from their lives before that. So I didn't call. And they didn't either. I heard things through the grapevine, though. Aunt Linda told me they'd taken out a second mortgage to keep up with the country club dues. They were drowning in debt, but still showing up, still pretending to belong. Andrea's best friend Sonia got married last year. She didn't invite Andrea. I don't even know who she is anymore, Sonia told me when we ran into each other at Target. I saw her Instagram. It's all designer bags and vacation photos. She doesn't talk to any of us. She became exactly what she always said she'd never be. the family that raised me had been completely replaced by these people chasing a life they couldn't afford and didn't understand. I'd made peace with it, most days anyway. Then Jason came home last Tuesday with news that just shattered everything. He walked in at 6:15, right on schedule, but his face was weird. Not upset exactly, but troubled. "Hey, babe." I called from the kitchen where I was making dinner while Owen played with his toy cars at my feet. "How was work?" "Interesting." He kissed the top of my head, then bent down to scoop up Owen. "Hey, buddy, did you help Mama today?" "I drawed a truck," Owen announced proudly, holding up his sticky hands. "Drew," I corrected gently. "And yes, it's on the fridge, right next to the dinosaur from yesterday." Jason set Owen down and turned to me, and that's when I knew something was really wrong. "Marie, we need to talk." My stomach just dropped. Those words never mean anything good. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong with us," he said quickly. "It's about your parents." I hadn't heard him say those words in years. "What about them?" "Mr. Hendricks saw them today." I stopped stirring the pasta. "Where?" "At the country club." Jason leaned against the counter. "You know he and my dad were best friends since they were kids, right? Both started as mechanics together. Hendricks built his dealership from the ground up, but he never forgot where he came from. He still talks to me like family, not like I'm just some employee." I nodded. I'd met Mr. Hendricks several times over the years. He was one of those rare people who actually lived his values. Anyway, his wife dragged him to that club for some charity thing. He hates that place, says it's full of pretentious people, but he goes to make her happy. Jason paused. "He saw your parents there, said people were talking about them, not to them, about them, behind their backs." My stomach twisted. "What were they saying?" "Your mom was on the tennis court. Can't play at all, missing every ball, holding the racket wrong. The women she was with were laughing at her, not with her." I thought about Mom, who'd never held a tennis racket until 6 years ago, desperately trying to belong. "And your dad was standing with some businessmen talking about tech startups and investments. Hendricks said your dad just kept nodding like he understood, but it was obvious he had no idea what anyone was talking about." My dad, who'd worked construction his whole life, who could build an entire house from the ground up but had never invested in anything except savings bonds and his daughter's college funds. "They were pretending," I said quietly. "Yeah, and everyone knew it." Jason's voice softened. Hendricks felt bad for them, honestly. He remembered meeting them at our wedding, said they seemed like really good people back then. He asked me what happened to them. "What did you tell him?" "The truth, that they traded their real life for a fake one and lost their family in the process." I turned back to the stove, blinking away these unexpected tears. I'd thought I was done caring, thought I'd mourned the loss of my parents years ago. But hearing that they were being mocked, that they were struggling so hard to maintain this ridiculous facade they'd built, it hurt in a way I didn't expect. "There's more," Jason said quietly. "More? What else could there possibly be?" He was quiet for a moment, and I could tell he was choosing his words carefully. "Hendricks saw Dylan. Not at the club, though. He ran into him at that steakhouse downtown, Morton's. Dylan was with a woman, not Andrea." My hand literally froze on the spoon. "What?" "Young, blonde, expensive-looking. Hendricks didn't recognize her, but he knows Dylan because of all the family stuff over the years. The wedding, seeing him around town. He said Dylan was all over this woman, holding her hand, whispering in her ear, the whole couple thing." The pasta started to boil over. I turned off the burner on autopilot, my mind just reeling. "Maybe she was a business associate or something," I said, but I didn't believe it even as the words came out. "That's what Hendricks thought at first, but then he saw them in the parking lot later. Dylan kissed her. Not a friendly peck or whatever. A real kiss." I literally sank into a chair. 6 years. 6 years of watching my family choose Andrea's wealthy husband over me. 6 years of being erased so they could play dress-up in Dylan's world. 6 years of my parents going into debt, alienating everyone they'd ever loved, completely transforming into people I didn't recognize. And the whole time, Dylan had been cheating on my sister. Hendricks asked around after that. Discreetly, you know how he is. Apparently she's the daughter of some real estate mogul from Denver. Her family makes the Prices look middle class. She runs one of her father's businesses out there. "Does Andrea know?" I don't know, maybe. But Marie, he reached across the table for my hand. This isn't your problem. She's still my sister. Is she? His voice was gentle but so firm. When's the last time she actually acted like it? I thought about it. 6 years ago. Probably the day before she met Dylan, honestly. Owen toddled over right then and climbed into my lap, sensing my distress the way kids do. I held him close, breathing in that little boy's smell of soap and graham crackers and playground dirt. This was my family now, Jason and Owen. Our small, real, honest life. Not the people who'd chosen country clubs and fake friends over us. Not the sister who'd blocked my number 3 years ago when I'd tried one last time to reach out. Not the parents who didn't even know they had a grandson. You're right, I said finally. Not my problem. But even as I said it, I couldn't shake this image of my parents at that club, trying so desperately hard to fit in, being mocked behind their backs. Clinging to this world that had never wanted them in the first place, and Andrea who'd sacrificed everything, her friends, her family, her own sister, for a man who was stepping out on her with someone richer. This is what they'd chosen. This is what they got for being exactly what Jason had called them 6 years ago. Pompous wannabes. I should have felt vindicated, right? I should have felt that sharp, satisfying rush of being right all along. Instead, I just felt sad. A few days later, I made the mistake of checking Andrea's Instagram. I'd unfollowed her years ago, but sometimes, in these weak moments, I'd search for her profile. Just to see. Just to confirm that she was still living her perfect, curated life without me. But this time, everything was different. No more champagne and designer bags, no more couples photos with Dylan at charity galas, no more hashtags about being blessed or living her best life. Instead, there were these sad quotes over aesthetic backgrounds. Sometimes the person you'd take a bullet for is the one behind the trigger. You don't lose friends, you just learn who the real ones are. She believed in fairy tales. Reality was cruel. The comments were all sympathetic but super vague. Thinking of you, you deserve better. Stay strong, gorgeous. Something had clearly happened. I closed Instagram and tried really hard not to care. 2 days later, my phone rang. Mom's name on the screen. I stared at it for 4 full rings before I answered. Hello? Marie. Mom's voice was thick, like she'd been crying for hours. Please, I need you to come over. We need to talk to you. About what? Please come. It's important. Every single instinct I had told me to say no, to hang up, to protect myself from whatever fresh hell this was about to be. But something in her voice, something completely broken, made me pause. When? Now? Today? As soon as you can? Please, Marie, I'm begging you. I should have said no. I know I should have. I'll be there in an hour. Jason absolutely did not want me to go. This is a trap, he said, watching me grab my keys. They want something. They always want something from you. I know. Then why are you going? Because I need to hear them say it. I kissed him. Whatever it is, whatever happened, I need to hear them actually say it out loud. You want me to come with you? I thought about it for a second. Thought about having Jason there as backup, as support, as someone on my side. Then I remembered the lemon pie. The way they'd treated him like hired help. The way Dad had introduced him as works on cars with that apologetic shrug. The way they'd forgotten his birthday while making sure to celebrate Dylan's in the Hamptons. No, I said firmly. And I'm not bringing Owen either. Good, Jason said, and his voice was hard. Because I wouldn't go even if you begged me. Whatever they want, whatever sob story they're about to tell you, they can cry to someone else. After what they did to us, to you, I'm done. I've been done for 6 years. He pulled me into a hug. But call me if you need me. I can be there in 10 minutes flat. I know. My parents' house looked exactly the same from the outside. Same BMW in the driveway, same manicured lawn they paid someone to maintain because God forbid they actually do yard work themselves now. But something felt different. Desperate, I knocked instead of using my old key, because I wasn't family anymore. We'd established that 6 years ago. Mom opened the door and she looked so much older than I remembered. Tired. Her designer outfit was hanging a little loose, like she'd lost weight. Her eyes were red and completely swollen. She reached for me immediately, arms outstretched for a hug. Marie? I stepped back, keeping my arms at my sides. Don't. Her arms just dropped. The hope in her eyes dimmed and died. "Thank you for coming." I walked past her into the living room. Dad was there, standing by the window like he always did when he was stressed. And Andrea was on the couch, completely curled into herself, mascara streaked down her face like she'd been crying for days. It was the first time I'd seen my sister in person in 6 years. She looked absolutely terrible. Mom hovered near me, like she wanted to try hugging me again, but didn't quite dare. "Please, sit down." "I'll stand." This awkward silence filled the room. They didn't know how to talk to me anymore. Good. I didn't know how to talk to them either. Dad cleared his throat. "Where's Jason?" "He refused to come here," I said, my voice coming out cold as ice. "After what you did to us, he has absolutely no interest in ever seeing you again. He wouldn't come even if I got down on my knees and begged him." The words landed like stones in the quiet room. "What am I doing here?" I cut through the silence. "What do you all want? Because if you're asking me to bake lemon pies again, I'm walking out that door right now." Andrea let out this sob. A real, ugly, completely broken sob. I looked at her, really looked at her for the first time. Designer clothes, but they were rumpled and wrinkled. Hair that probably cost hundreds of dollars to maintain was pulled into this messy ponytail. And the massive diamond ring she'd been flaunting for 6 years was completely gone from her finger. "Andrea?" My voice softened despite everything. "What's going on?" She looked up at me with these swollen, desperate eyes. "Dylan divorced me." The words just hung there in the air between us. "He cheated on me," she continued, her voice breaking with every word, "with some woman, and he just left me for her, like I was nothing. Like our 6 years together meant absolutely nothing to him." I should have felt vindicated right then. I should have felt that sharp, satisfying rush of being right all along, of knowing this would happen. Instead, I just felt this tired sort of sadness. "Because he found a woman whose family is richer than his?" I said quietly. "That blonde woman? The one who's running one of her father's businesses?" All 3 heads snapped toward me like I'd just confessed to murder. Andrea's face went completely pale. How do you know that?" "Who told you about her?" Mom demanded, her voice getting sharp and desperate. "Who's been talking about us?" I almost laughed at that. Even now, even in the middle of this crisis, they were so concerned about gossip, about what people were saying about them. "News travels fast," I said simply, "especially in this town where you cut off all the people who actually mattered." "But who specifically?" Andrea started. "Does it matter?" I cut her off. Andrea's face crumpled. His parents, Dylan's parents, they supported him. They said he made the best decision ever, that she was a better match, better for the business, better for the family. "Andrea," Mom reached for her. "No, you need to hear this." Andrea's voice rose, hysterical. "They told him he made the right choice, that he was trading up, and then—" She looked at Mom and Dad, her eyes wild. "Then they told him they were embarrassed. Embarrassed by you two." Mom's face went white as paper. "They said you were always playing pretend," Andrea continued, the words pouring out now. "That you couldn't afford any of it, but kept showing up anyway, trying to act like you belonged. That they could have let it slide if you'd just been yourselves. But no, you had to pretend to be something you're not." Dad actually stumbled backward, gripping the window frame. "They said it was humiliating," Andrea sobbed. "Having you there, at their club, at their events, missing tennis balls, and nodding along to conversations you didn't understand. They said everyone was laughing at you, and it reflected poorly on Dylan and me." The room was completely silent except for Andrea's crying. "So Dylan left me," she whispered, "and his parents practically threw him a going-away party. At least I got some alimony from the prenup, enough to support myself for a year or 2, maybe. Then I'm on my own." I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. They all stared at me like I'd completely lost my mind. "I knew it," I said. "We all knew it. Everyone in this entire town knew it. Did you really think people couldn't see what you were doing? News travels fast, especially when you're making fools of yourselves." Mom's hand went to her mouth. "Do you know how I felt?" My voice got harder. It was humiliating, learning all of this from other people, hearing about my own parents being laughed at, my own sister's husband cheating on her. My parents— what did Jason call you 6 years ago? Oh, right, pompous wannabes. And people laughed, you know. They were laughing at you this whole time." Dad's face was completely gray. "Now what?" I continued, really warming up now. "You've got 2 expensive cars sitting in your garage that you can't afford. I suggest you sell them or return them to the bank before they repossess them and make the neighbors watch and laugh at you one more time." The silence was absolutely deafening. "Did you know?" Mom's voice was barely even a whisper. "Did you know he was cheating and you didn't tell us?" I laughed again, but it was bitter. "Are you serious right now? When exactly would I have told you? We haven't spoken in 6 years. You erased me from your lives, remember?" Blocked my number, stopped inviting me to things, pretended I didn't exist when you saw me in public. And even if I had known earlier, which I didn't, I literally just found out recently. Why would I warn you? You made it crystal clear I wasn't family anymore. "Marie, please," Andrea started. "And did you know," I continued, my voice getting even harder, "that those people at your precious country club, the ones you bankrupted yourselves trying to impress, they're laughing at you, all of you." Mom's face went white. "They laugh at Mom because she can't play tennis to save her life. They laugh at Dad because he has no idea what they're talking about when they discuss business. You're the entertainment, the cautionary tale, the people who so obviously don't belong that everyone can see it except you." "Stop it," Dad said weakly. "Please, just stop." "Why?" "You wanted me here. I'm here. You want the truth? Here it is. You threw away your real family. Me, Jason, your actual friends, everyone who genuinely loved you, for people who think you're a complete joke. You went into debt you'll probably never pay off to maintain a lifestyle you could never actually afford. You became exactly what Jason called you 6 years ago. Pompous wannabes." "That's enough." Dad's voice cracked completely. "Is it, though?" I turned to Andrea. "You cut off Sonia, your best friend since high school, because she wasn't rich enough for your shiny new life. You blocked my number. You pretended I didn't exist because I married a mechanic instead of a millionaire. And now that millionaire left you for someone with more money, and suddenly, you remember you have a sister?" Andrea was full-on sobbing now, her whole body just shaking. I should have felt good about this. I'd literally dreamed about this moment, about telling them exactly what I thought, about making them face what they'd done to themselves, to me, to our family. But standing in this room, watching my sister completely fall apart and my parents looking at me with these desperate, pleading eyes, I just felt empty, tired, done. "Why am I here?" I asked again, quieter this time. "What do you actually want from me?" Mom stepped forward, her hands clasped together like she was literally praying. "We want to reconnect. We want to be a family again." The words should have meant something, right? A year ago, even 6 months ago, those words might have cracked something open in my chest, might have made me feel hope. Now they just sounded completely hollow. "You want to be a family again," I repeated slowly, letting each word sink in. "Let me get this absolutely straight. You want us to be a family again? After you spent 6 years acting like Jason and I were your embarrassment because we're not millionaires? After you erased us from your lives, forgot our birthdays, ignored us in public, treated us like hired help that one time you actually bothered to call us?" "Marie, we made mistakes," Dad started. "Mistakes?" My voice rose. "You didn't make mistakes. You made choices, deliberate choices. You chose Dylan's money over your own daughter. You chose country club memberships you couldn't afford over family dinners you could. You chose people who laugh at you behind your backs over people who actually genuinely loved you." "We know," Mom whispered. "We know we were wrong." "Do you, though?" I challenged. "Or are you just here because those rich people won't really accept you after all? Because Dylan dumped Andrea for someone richer? Because you suddenly realized that the world you tried so desperately hard to break into will never actually want you?" The silence was absolutely damning. "That's what I thought," I said. "You don't want to reconnect because you miss us. You want to reconnect because you have nowhere else to go, because the life you chose over us didn't work out the way you planned." "That's not fair," Andrea sobbed. "Fair?" I laughed, but it was bitter. "You want to talk about fair? We're wasting our time here. I'm going home. My son is waiting for me." The words were out of my mouth before I could stop them. All 3 faces went completely slack, with shock. "You're what?" Mom's voice was barely even a whisper. You have a son? Andrea's tears literally stopped midstream, her face frozen in complete disbelief. Dad just stared at me like I'd started speaking an entirely different language. Yes, I said simply. I have a son. His name is Owen. He's 3 years old. 3 years. Mom's hand went to her mouth. 3 years and you didn't tell us? We have a grandchild and you just never... How? I cut her off, my voice sharp as broken glass. How exactly was I supposed to tell you? You blocked my number, remember? Andrea blocked me on absolutely everything. You made it crystal clear that I was cut off, that I didn't matter, that I wasn't part of this family anymore. So no, I didn't tell you. Why would I? We're family, Dad started. Are we? I shot back. Because 6 years ago you decided we weren't. You decided that Jason and I didn't fit into your shiny new life. That we were too poor, too ordinary, too embarrassing to be associated with. You made that choice, not me. Marie, please, Mom's voice cracked completely. A grandchild. We have a grandchild. You don't get to meet him, I said firmly. You don't get to suddenly show up now and play grandparents just because your rich friends don't want you anymore. Owen has a family, a real family. Me and Jason, people who love him for exactly who he is and don't care about what car we drive or what club we belong to or how much money we make. He doesn't need grandparents who will be ashamed of him the second someone wealthier comes along. We would never, Andrea started. You already did, I shouted, and I felt all this anger I'd been holding in for 6 years just pour out. You did it to me. You think I'm going to let you do it to my son? You think I'm going to let him grow up feeling the way you made me feel? Like he wasn't good enough? Like he was something to be hidden away and ashamed of? Mom was crying now. Dad's face had gone completely gray. Andrea looked like I'd physically slapped her. You made your choice 6 years ago, I said, walking toward the door. You chose money and status over family. You chose appearances over love. You chose fake friends and country clubs over the people who actually cared about you. You don't get to come back now and pretend that didn't happen. You don't get to meet my son. You don't get to be part of our lives. Marie, wait. Mom reached for me desperately. I pulled away. Don't. You wanted to know why I came. I came because I needed to see it with my own eyes. I needed to see that you're exactly who I thought you'd become, people who only remember they have a daughter when literally everyone else has abandoned them. I opened the door. Goodbye. I walked out, got in my car, and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I could see Mom standing in the doorway, Dad right beside her, both of them just watching me leave. Just like I'd watched them leave me behind 6 years ago. I drove home with my hands literally shaking on the steering wheel. By the time I pulled into our driveway, all that adrenaline had completely worn off and left me feeling hollow, empty, but also lighter somehow, if that makes sense. Jason was at the door before I even got out of the car, Owen on his hip. Mama! Owen reached for me immediately, and I took him, just burying my face in his soft hair and breathing him in. How'd it go? Jason asked quietly. Later, I said, after he goes to bed. Jason made beef stew for dinner, my absolute favorite, and Owen's favorite too. The whole apartment smelled like home, like safety, like everything my parents' house wasn't anymore. Owen chattered nonstop through dinner about his day at preschool, about the tower he'd built with blocks, about his friend Emma who could count all the way to 20. Just normal, beautiful 3-year-old chaos. My phone started buzzing during dessert. I ignored it, but it kept buzzing, text after text, call after call. Jason glanced at it, then at me. Them? Yeah. After we got Owen to bed, teeth brushed, story read, nightlight on, the whole routine, I finally told Jason everything. The divorce. Dylan cheating with someone way richer, Andrea completely falling apart, Mom and Dad looking desperate and broken. Their pathetic requests to reconnect. Their shock about Owen. What Dylan's parents had said about my parents being embarrassing. They want to meet him, I said, sitting on our worn couch with Jason's arm around me. They kept calling it a mistake. Like 6 years of cutting us out of their lives was just some little oopsie they can apologize away now that their rich friends have dumped them. Jason was quiet for a moment. What did you say? I told them no. I told them they don't get to meet Owen. That they made their choice 6 years ago and they don't get to take it back now just because everything fell apart exactly like we knew it would. Good, Jason said firmly. My phone buzzed again. I picked it up. 17 missed calls, 23 text messages. I just stared at the messages, feeling nothing but this tired frustration. They think they have a right to him, I told Jason. Dad actually texted that they have a right to meet our grandson. Jason's jaw tightened. They have no rights. They gave up those rights when they forgot your birthday, my birthday, when they cut you completely out of their lives for 6 years. I blocked all 3 numbers right then and there. Jason watched me do it and squeezed my shoulder. I'm so proud of you. It feels weird, I admitted. Final. It is final. They killed this relationship 6 years ago, babe. You're just finally accepting that it's dead and not trying to resurrect it anymore. He was absolutely right. My phone finally stopped buzzing. I have some news, Jason said after a moment. Good news, I think, but it's kind of big. I looked at him. What kind of big? Mr. Hendricks called me into his office today. They're opening a new location, 2 states away, and he wants me to run the shop there. Head mechanic, small management team under me. It's a real promotion. My heart started beating faster. 2 states away? Yeah. They'd give us free housing for the first 6 months while we get settled, then we'd need to find our own place after that. But Marie, the pay increase is really significant. We could actually buy a house, a small one, but it would be ours. Really ours, not rented. 2 states away, I repeated. Away from this town, away from the country club where my parents were the running joke. Away from Andrea's crumbled Instagram-perfect life. Away from all of it. Do you want to move? Jason asked carefully. I know it's far from your family. I don't have a family here, I interrupted him. Not anymore. I have you and Owen. That's my family. And if we move, we take our family with us. Jason smiled, and I could see the relief just flooding his face. So that's a yes? That's absolutely a yes. He kissed me, and for the first time in weeks, I felt genuinely excited about the future. We were leaving, starting completely fresh. Building a life somewhere new where nobody knew about the Swansons who'd traded their daughter for country club memberships, or the sister who'd chosen a rich husband over her own family. Just us, our little family of 3. Perfect. We moved exactly 3 months later. The new town was smaller, way friendlier. Owen started at a new preschool and made friends immediately, the way only 3-year-olds can. I found new clients for my freelance business. Jason absolutely thrived at the new shop, finally getting the respect and appreciation he deserved. We bought a house after 8 months. Nothing fancy, but it had a backyard for Owen to play in, and a garage for Jason to work in, and a little office for me. It was absolutely perfect. I didn't think about my old family much. Occasionally I'd wonder how they were doing, but then I'd remember that they'd had 6 whole years to wonder about me and they never bothered. Then, about a year after we moved, I got a message from Aunt Linda. Thought you should know. Saw your parents at the grocery store last week. I did to them exactly what they did to all of us. Looked right through them and kept walking. Your mom looked like she might actually cry. Just wanted you to know karma's real. I showed it to Jason. He just snorted. Good for Linda. More messages trickled in over the following months, painting this picture I hadn't asked for, but couldn't help listening to. My parents had finally been forced to leave the country club, just couldn't afford the dues anymore. The BMW and Lexus had both been repossessed. They'd downsized to this small apartment across town, and all those people they'd cut off, family members, old friends, neighbors they'd known for literal decades, they were all returning the favor, ignoring them in public, declining invitations, treating them exactly the way they'd treated everyone else when they thought they were too good for their old life. Andrea had moved back in with them. The divorce settlement apparently wasn't generous at all. Prenup. She was working retail now, trying to rebuild her entire life from scratch, and she'd tried reaching out to Sonia, her best friend from high school. Sonia never replied. She blocked me on everything, Sonia told Aunt Linda, who told me. Just like Andrea did to her 6 years ago. Funny how that works out, isn't it? I thought about Andrea, alone in my parents' small apartment, probably scrolling through old Instagram photos of her perfect life with Dylan, wondering where it all went so wrong. I thought about my parents, sitting in that apartment right now, finally understanding what they'd actually lost. not the country club or the fancy cars or the rich friends who'd never really been friends at all. But me, Jason, Owen, the family that had actually genuinely loved them. I should have felt vindicated, right? Should have felt that sharp satisfaction of cosmic justice being served. Instead, I just felt nothing. They were complete strangers to me now. Their karma wasn't my concern anymore. I had my own family to focus on, and we were doing just fine. And that's our story. If you loved it, smash that like button and subscribe. It helps more than you know. Drop a comment and tell me where you're listening from. I love hearing from you. This is Melodic Vengeance. See you in the next one.
If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Don't forget to follow for more content just like this. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.